Happy Independence Day, America. Today we are doing a mock draft so we can get ready to make your league dominant. Not just win the summer, which we're celebrating now, but win all NFL season long. That's what Bob and I do here at Local Football Flavor. We teach you how to make winners. And today we're not putting any restrictions on us. We're America. We're here to win this, and that's what you're seeing, the best of our drafts. America's on the clock now. J. Jeff first overall. Bob, we just did that last episode yesterday about why not to take the receivers early, why to pound the running backs hard. But still the consensus is J. Jeff and running backs just be forgotten. Go J. Jeff, go Chase, go Cup, go CD. And I just sit here and it's like, if I can have the 5th pick overall, and I know I have myself Robinson who's going to get the ball 30 times a game, why not?
Robinson is clearly above Eckler in a lot of situations.
I think he should.
Eckler sitting there
on the clock
at 7 is definitely interesting. I am going to go with Taylor over Hill. Really like Jonathan Taylor this year. I think the situation with Anthony Richardson is going to be a unique situation for Taylor, but it's definitely going to help him more than hurt him when it comes to overcoming robotic Matt Ryan. Even if Gardner Minshew starts, I think that's a serviceable quarterback for you if you're a Jonathan Taylor owner. And believe it or not, Jonathan Taylor didn't do awful last year. He just got hurt.
Yeah.
And so if we can take out those games where he got hurt, he's strictly a number 1 running back, and it's great to have him. I was just saying about Austin Eckler.
So we've discussed Eckler. If you haven't watched our videos before, we invite you to go back. But here's the general gist with the problem with Eckler is that so much of his production last year was based upon the Keenan Allen and Mike Williams injuries, particularly Keenan Allen. And what the Chargers did to recognize that problem was that they said, hey, we're going to go out and get what I believe was the best running back available in the entire draft in Quentin Johnston as the insurance policy, almost the way that Tyler Boyd is in Cincinnati. So Eckler's not going to take on that extra load. And we already know that Eckler doesn't do a whole lot of running. We look at he scores touchdowns, sure. He's a great red zone threat. But if someone like Everett on that roster actually showed up and be reliable, Eckler is the first one who's losing touchdown share. And when we look at the potential of downside compared to last season, not counting injury risk, just from practical on the field, who's going to have the most downside taken away, I think Austin Eckler might be the most in the NFL. Because the Chargers don't really have the ability of scoring much more points than they already do. So there's not upside for that offense. But touchdowns got to be taken from somewhere.
I do think the upside for that offense will be a healthy Herbert and a healthy Mike Williams and a healthy Keenan Allen. Where you're saying, though, is where the target share is.
Well, I'm also saying I don't think they can score more points. Like, I literally don't think they can score more points than they already have.
I don't necessarily think that that's true because they do play the Raiders twice.
But they played the Raiders last year and they put up a ton of points. On my point is, you look at the total points scored as a team. The Chargers put up a ton, and it's going to be they don't have an extra touchdown per game in them. Maybe half a touchdown per game at most.
Well, what you're speaking,
and more likely it's going to be less total points scored.
What you're speaking towards, though, too, not only is you're speaking towards less total points scored, but you're also speaking more towards where is the ball going to go, because there's 3 wide receivers that are all what we think are going to get targets. There's a really good tight end and then a really good running back.
Sure.
And so Eckler benefited from the injuries that happened last year. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about that at all. The question with Eckler is, and the reason why he's falling to maybe 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 in your leagues is because of that target share, that volume. He had a lot last year, but he didn't produce a lot on the ground minus a couple of games. When we looked into that. And a lot of that came through the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
Is Herbert still going to key in on him in the passing game? We don't know that. We can assume yes, but when you assume yes, you're taking a chance if you're taking him higher. Now, at 1.7, 1.8, it's a little bit silly to pass on him, just because he was the league leading scorer last year outside of quarterbacks. And so,
see, I don't know about that because Jonathan Taylor is a legitimate running back. 2 years ago, he was the MVP of fantasy football, and meaning that if you had him on your team, he was the most likely indicator of making the playoffs. And he's still, I believe, the second best pure runner today in the NFL. I believe it's Taylor, then Chubb. I'm hoping Robinson, obviously, by the fact I keep taking him first overall. Mm-hmm. But then comes Henry fourth, and then it's a cliff in terms of pure runners. Maybe Ramondre Stevenson is next. But Jonathan Taylor is one of the best backs in terms of power and speed combo, and they use him.
So you'll see, if you're taking a look at this, you'll see what Joe and I were talking about in yesterday's episode, where we're looking at what is your league doing. In our last episode, I did reach on Olave in the second round because we were strictly trying to show you what teams you could construct if you go wide receivers early from any position. But here, we're in a 10-team. 10-team is vastly different than a 12-teamer because you're adding 4 more picks in that second round of place there. But you're looking at Higgins, who went at the back half of the second, is now going on the back half of the third. Mm-hmm. You're looking at Olave, and this goes to show you because more running backs were taken here. And it's definitely an intriguing opportunity for you if you are a person who wants to just get yourself zoned into onto a particular position, mm-hmm. what kind of team you can construct, because unless you take both a quarterback and a running back in the first 4 rounds, I don't think you can make a bad team unless you take guys that are really not suited for the situations that they're currently in.
Well, I do think that there are some legitimate players, and we're going to dive into this a little bit more tomorrow, that you just need to avoid. But the concept of running back heavy is the foundation I believe in, because it's the foundation of your team. If you have 4 NFL starting running backs that are big on volume share, and as I look at my team right now, Robinson, Chubb, Najee Harris, all of them are projected to get over 80% of their team's carries and be the workhorse. Those are the guys that give you a high floor for your fantasy team. So may it limit me from putting up the highest in the league totals? Possibly, but it also means I'm never out of a game. And there's plenty of weeks when you just need to just survive. And a running back stable is what helps you survive. And that's why I believe in the 4 backs up front.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing wrong with that.
I'll take that stable 4 all day. Those 4 are carrying the ball like crazy.
Now, what Joe is probably going to do in the next 4 rounds is take wide receivers. These 4 wide receivers he's going to take, there's probably going to be a little bit of Jerry Jeudy, a little bit of George Pickens sprinkled in there.
I'm off Jeudy.
A couple of things going on with, if you are going with 4 running backs, there is really logistically in rounds 5 through 8, a lot of guys that you can pick at wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to really be that hurting about it. Yes, guys like Jamar Chase, guys like Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Devonte Adams, A.J. Brown all have a chance to score 30 points. But Nick Chubb has a chance to score 30 points too. Mm-hmm. Bijan Robinson has a chance to score 30 points too.
And these guys aren't going to get a running back at this point that gives them a chance to do that. Like we look at whoever this guy, the second pick, takes in his running back room. He's not going to have a chance to have his running backs produced. But his argument's going to be, will any of my receivers be able to fight with Waddle or Chase? Taking 2 high-end quarterbacks is the counter to what I'm doing here. You see someone who's hoarding one position, hoarding another position can also be an argument there.
He said oops.
Well, It is what it is. So, Bob, I want to just talk to a general in your draft setting kind of side question as we're here on 4th of July, having some barbecue, having some hot dogs and whatnot. When you're in your league setting, how long do you give someone who's taking a pick who just seems like they're dragging their feet and taking forever, especially pick
Just
after
a couple
pick
minutes.
after pick?
I mean, a couple minutes at first, and then you dive down into maybe 30 seconds like the draft timer is here. You're not really giving people a lot of time. You should realistically, you should know who you want, or you should at least be thinking about 2 different guys. If you're saying that 11 and 12, you definitely have a couple of guys that you're interested in. You should key up 4, 5 of those guys because you know most of them are going to get taken.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you're sitting in the middle, you definitely know who you're going to take. So it's realistically, you shouldn't give that much time to each pick. Now as I'm talking here, I'm trying to think about who I want here because there's a lot of good quarterbacks that people are talking about still on the board.
But you probably need running back.
But I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins.
Right.
In this situation, you see Fields and you say, I should take Justin Fields.
Still might get him.
Because
you weren't going to get Dobbins. Yeah.
They did take Madison. And if you've been watching any of our shows, I really like Madison. I really like Drake London. Pardon me. And this guy, K-Dog, I've drafted with him before.
Got a little rapport.
He knows the guys that I like. And I'm not too happy about that. I will tell you that. So we're going to dive down a little bit on this board. And we're going to take a chance on Trevor Lawrence. Usually I don't take quarterback in this round. We've done a few shows where I've tried it. But as I look at the players that are on the board in the 6th round sitting there, you're going to see a couple of them come off the block. Miles Sanders, I like him, but I'm not in love with him. I like Dameon Pierce. I like Michael Pittman. Or I don't like Dameon Pierce. I like Michael Pittman. But again, I'm not married to Michael Pittman as much as Joe loves Michael Pittman.
You give me number 1 receiver, number 1 target share on a team in the 6th round.
Yeah, there's nothing to fight about Michael Pittman. I think that if you go with 4 running backs early, Michael Pittman is probably going to be your 1 or your 2.
Mm-hmm.
And, you'll have a chance as your 1 and your 2, typically speaking, you'll have either Judy, Pittman, London, Watson, Ayuk, all of those guys.
And what I particularly like about my 2, McLaurin and Pittman, they're both the number 1 receivers on their team. Like they are the go-to guy when it's 3rd and 8 who we get the ball to. And that's part of what you need to recognize. I mean, this still is about winning football games on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I do need to put this disclaimer out there. The entire reason that I am super confident in building the 4 running back stable is because I have immense confidence on my back-end quarterback and my back-end tight end that I know I'm going to be able to get around the 8th or 9th round for the tight end. And for most rounds, the 10th or the 11th on the quarterback. Because as we saw after Bob took Lawrence, there's not a reason to excel and chase after quarterbacks at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, Lawrence finished the year from like October on as the 5th best quarterback in fantasy football. I think that he's being slept upon in a way that he shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at this, I have much more confidence loading the Gibbs pick in my 4th round because I know I'm getting Cole Kmet, who I believe is going to be the 3rd best tight end, maybe higher in the NFL. And I'm going to give him the 8th or 9th round. And I totally believe that in New Orleans, that Carr is going to have an amazing year. So I sit here on the clock knowing I'm going to take another receiver. I'm debating between Mike Williams, Lockett, and Kirk. And for me, I'm going to take Mike Williams for the simple fact that San Diego is going to score, and Mike Williams is one of the highest touchdown clip guys in the NFL. He just gets injured a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So since we're in a league where I already know I'm playing home run ball on my wide receivers, Mike Williams fits the bill. Not to mention the dude's a red zone freak. He is huge and can jump.
Mhm.
Now, if he wouldn't get hurt, he's not that dissimilar from a Hall of Famer up in Detroit named Johnson as well. So just
Hey,
throwing that out there. He just gets hurt a lot. His body type is the same.
Let's not go that far. Now, if you do go wide receivers, like I took 3 wide receivers and 1 running back early here, in this 10-man, the 7th round is basically Isaiah Pacheco's zone. You have to take Pacheco. I'd rather have had Kirk there, but that is a luxury that I could not afford without having a consistency in the running back stable. Now, all 3 running backs that I have, 2 of them do have injury concerns. So you do have to look at it and you have to say, okay, is this something that I really want to do here? And now K-Dog again takes Goddard. That's a guy that I do like in this zone. He can put up 17 points. He might put up 0. But value-wise, he has a lot of value sitting there. Now,
so right now,
I'm going to take Swift.
Great pick.
Just for the fact that if you saw yesterday's episode, you'll know that because I went 4 wide receivers early, I had to take Swift as my number 1 running back. But in this 10-man league, you're seeing Swift go in the 7th or 8th round in and about that area. Swift provides you with a really good opportunity. Again, though, injury prone. So when you look at these backs from Dobbins down, essentially, you're looking at running backs that do have injury concerns, that do have situation concerns.
Like White, giant situation concern.
So when you're painting a picture and you say, well, Devonte Smith is incredible value. Yeah, Devonte Smith is great in the 4th round in the 10-team league. But should I go after Aaron Jones? Maybe I should take him instead. Maybe I wouldn't take Kenneth Walker because his situation is undetermined too. Once you get past Najee Harris, once you get past Tony Pollard and Breece Hall, you've got some concerns.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the reason why I've been saying that Madison is going to slowly begin to creep up that board even higher. So if you're drafting now, perfect. That's great. Madison's great. Later, you're going to see Madison fall in the 3rd round, and you're not going to be able to build this team with 3 heavy wide receivers like that because you're going to see that Joe Mixon's suspension is going to be figured out. You're not taking him. You're going to be looking at Jahmyr Gibbs and with Montgomery, and you're going to be seeing whose situation is clear.
Gibbs.
Same with Walker and Charbonnet. Same with Jones and Dillon. We know Jones is going to get the rock regardless, and I think that I think it's 4 and 5 is weird to see Aaron Jones at.
It is, because he's going to lead the Packers in touchdowns.
I think it's strange, and I think that he's going to be a really good value for people at this point in time.
So, Bob, to turn the page here, we're midway through the 9th. Oh, shit, we're on my pick, and that's why there's not a pick in right now. But we are midway through the 9th round of a 10-man league. And I just want to look at the tight ends. They're all orange upon your screen. Kelsey, Hawk, Andrews, Kittle, Waller, Goddard, and Pitts.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that Kelsey doesn't have that all the others have? And that's injuries. Kelsey doesn't get hurt. And at the end of the day, the other 6 that all have been drafted are all injury risk. And this is why, again, if he's on the board, I'm actually going to take him, go away from my Cole Kmet spot. The reason I'm in love with 2 tight ends here is Cole Kmet being one of them. And the other one being, are you about to take him? Okay. The other one being the tight end who's number 1 on the board right now in Pat Freiermuth. Because Freiermuth does not have injury concerns. And that's really the key that takes you up these boards. It's just, do I get a guy who's not going to get hurt? And as much as running back is the injuries position, it's really tight end. And as much as you break it down, that's the case. So we have done all of these drafts, Bob, probably about, 12 of these now. And I'm yet to have Freiermuth on my team until today because I believe, give me a guy who doesn't have tight end history. Freiermuth, Kmet. Both of them have 2 things in common. Young quarterbacks that look in the middle of the field for help. And I understand the argument. Pickett didn't throw touchdowns last year. True. The Steelers did not score a lot of touchdowns. Their offensive coordinator is currently running around bragging about how they had the second most 10-play drives in the NFL, and it's the only stat they're close with Kansas City in. Well, guess what? They didn't score. I understand that. That's why you should shade Steelers. But you look at my roster real quick, I have 3 Steelers on it. Reason being, behind the scenes, the Pittsburgh offensive coordinator got neutered. No one's talking about it, but it's what happened. And I know this because I host the Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate, where all we do is talk Steelers all day. So when I look at this, there are going to be points on the board in Pittsburgh in a way that you haven't seen before. But more so, if you want to take a tight end, take one that doesn't have injury risk. That's why Freiermuth is going to fly up boards and why he's going to be elite.
Yeah, and one of the people in the chat just said, yeah, this is 17 rounds for a 10-team league is a little bit longer, but in most home leagues, you're not doing just 14 rounds. You're not doing just 12 rounds. Yes.
So here's the thing with Gabe Davis that I just need to point out for everyone. Gabe Davis, while having incredibly up and down type seasons, right? He's still the number 2 receiver for Josh Allen. And that fact alone should not have him be the 128th person in a draft board. And that to me is just outstanding how much Gabe Davis is falling. Yes, I understand that his injury hit makes him less desirable, but he's still Allen's number 2. So, team players, in this draft, we also included the defenses and the kickers and made it 17 rounds. A little bit longer than your mock, but we wanted to make it authentic to what it will be like. And we see here the first defense going off the board actually to myself. And this goes back to a conversation we were having earlier, Bob, about wanting to have the best player at each position, which includes defense and kickers. And when you're looking at a defense, you want a team that sacks people.
That's absolutely 100% true. The Eagles and the Cowboys, they're 2 defenses that are kind of slept on in comparison to the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
It is your pick.
Oh.
So you've got to see. So that's 2 teams from the NFC East. You're looking at and you're saying, well, should I go with a defense in the 12th, 13th, 14th round? That really is dependent upon your league mates. I mean, I personally am probably going to take the bottom of the barrel defense because if you don't get something that's elite in the defensive bandwagon, you're basically playing the odds on a week-to-week basis.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you don't end up with negative points. A lot of times, defenses for me, I'm looking for takeaways. You can't go for and plan for takeaways, but you can look at the talent on the defense and say, is there going to be opportunities for these teams to get takeaways? Because let's face it, that's what gets a majority of the points on your defense. The Eagles, they have a tremendous opportunity to get takeaways because they get sacks. Sacks can equate to fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
Fumble recoveries, fumbles run back for touchdowns. The reason I like the Cowboys is because of the takeaway situation. You're looking at it and you're saying, okay, Cowboys could get potentially some interceptions, return for touchdowns. That's pretty good in my book.
Mm-hmm.
Not many players, not many teams are thinking about that. If he doesn't take the Cowboys here, I'm taking the Cowboys. The sacks are going to be there. The takeaways should be there. And again, snipe me again, Cowboys. So I'm just going to sit that one out. I'm not taking the defense there. I'll take Jigger. I'll take Justin Tucker. Coming back with the defenses again. Let's see who we got on the bandwagon here. The Steelers.
The Steelers are a great pick on defense.
The Steelers are, yeah, that's awesome. K-Dog, nice. 2 kickers. So when you're looking to build your team and you're trying to get a defense, yes, the Steelers, when you look at their numbers last year and you go to their game log and you see, okay, how did they do in a PPR league? When Watt was on the field,
they were amazing.
You're seeing 11 points, 13 points, 11 points, 11 points, 27 points. When Watt was not on the field, you are seeing single-digit totals.
Kind of means he's player of the year, doesn't he?
So, when you look at the Cowboys and you say, okay, well, what did the Cowboys do last year? You have 11, 25, 26, 12, 18, 21, 12, and then a bunch of single digits, albeit higher than the Steelers single digits. So if you want to wait, wait. If you don't want to wait, by all means, don't. That's perfectly fine. Again, we're going to take Jared Goff. Why not? Again, when you're building your team in the back half of this draft, you're already cementing. You've already cemented your starting lineup, and you're looking for value at different areas. You'll see that I took a double tight end. Joe did as well. He took Freiermuth and Kmet. I took Laporta and Higbee. Both of those tight end stacks, if you want to call it that, but basically just tight end pairs, they're pretty interchangeable. Freiermuth and Kmet are probably on a week-to-week basis going to put up similar numbers. Laporta and Higbee, based on what we're hearing in camp about Laporta, could definitely put up numbers. Higbee was trending as a top 5 tight end last year.
He was until Stafford got hurt, and he got hurt.
Stafford injury prior to his own injury. So when we take a look at what this draft has provided to us, you'll see that 4 people went on auto by the time the 11th round hit.
Which is standard. Some people can't stand forever.
You'll take a look and you'll see Joe is the only one that really went running back heavy. But by going running back heavy, you've definitely changed how your league mates are going to be drafting, because the value is not going to be there. If you continue to take wide receivers, you are not going to end up with a sufficient amount of running backs. If I walk into
I love my wide receiver room, though.
If I walk into this season, now Clayton over there admitted that Joe Burrow was a fudged up pick. He didn't mean to take Joe Burrow there, but I'm assuming that he was going to take another wide receiver. If that was so, and Debo was his pick, I don't think this team would be any different. And I would be really concerned going into the season with Akers, White, and Williams as my starting 3 running backs.
Yes.
Coming in and looking at Joe's team, Bijan, Chubb, Harris, and Gibbs, you're taking 2 unknown knowns with Robinson and Gibbs. You know the situation is right. You know they're a talented player. You just don't know how much they're going to go at it.
They'll use a first-round pick and not hand the ball off.
That's true. But again, you do have Tyler Algier, who's a 1,000-yard rusher. You do have David Montgomery, who's a 1,000-yard rusher.
Monty's irrelevant to me.
I'm not saying that those 4 guys or that those 2 rookies are bad. By no means am I saying that. I'm just saying that you've taken more consistency with Chubb and Harris to potentially offset if Bijan fails, if Gibbs fails. Now, if you take Bijan and then you go 2 wide receivers, then what you're looking at is you're relying solely on Bijan. And
putting a lot of pressure on that point, yeah.
Now, with my team over in the 8th position, my running backs have injury concerns. There's no doubt about it. But if you're going to take running backs with injury concerns, just take a couple. Take, like I did, I took 5 running backs there, or no, 6 running backs. And those 6 running backs, albeit they have injury concerns, these are all running backs that were once in time starters on teams.
Well, Bob, you have this sleeping running back that I love in Damian Harris, because that guy is going to be picking up the touchdowns in Buffalo.
He should.
And quite frankly, I think he's a better runner than Cook, who they have there.
Cook is very scat-back-esque, and we can see that from the tapes. But when you take Harris is more of the runner that Buffalo has been waiting for. Buffalo needs somebody who's going to pound it through the middle, who's going to take it up the side so that Josh Allen has room to work his magic.
Yeah, so to give the comparison of the styles here, scat back, Barry Sanders. Power running back, like Harris is more of a Henry. Not saying they're at that talent level, but between tackles, head down and run. And that's what Buffalo needs.
And we are looking at a team in Buffalo that's going to probably use their running back a little bit more because Josh Allen didn't perform, and the whole Buffalo organization didn't perform as well as they could have towards the end of the season. It took them to beat Skylar Thompson, right? That was rough for them to beat Skylar Thompson there. But let's look at it and say, okay, well, if I'm going to take 3 wide receivers early, I don't need to take one in the first round. I can still get a high quality running back in the first round. Maybe I wanted to take Hill, and my comeback in the second round would have been Chubb. I don't think that a combination of Chubb and Hill is any worse than a combination of Taylor and Brown.
I would rather have Taylor or Brown.
This is what you need to think about, is what you would be more comfortable with. Coming back in the third round, I could have taken Travis Etienne. I could have taken Kenneth Walker. But Higgins and Devonta Smith at that point in time present you with so much value in a 10-team league. In a 12-team league, those 2 players are going to go at the back half of the second. So you're not going to get an opportunity to get them here. 10-team leagues are so vastly different than 12-team leagues.
Yes, they are.
It's only an additional 4 picks. Those 4 picks are most likely going to be all wide receivers. And they're probably not going to be a lot of running backs going in those extra picks. So in a 10-team league, a running back heavy team may look very comparable to a wide receiver heavy team. In a 12-team league, these are going to be 2 very different things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for all the team players out there who are watching us still on Independence Day, click like and subscribe. Become a team player. If you guys want to join our Best Ball League, on our YouTube page is our email. Send us your email. We'll hook you up with the details. We look forward to seeing you guys each and every day until we get closer to the kickoff of fantasy season.